SoCalians, what is going on? Welcome back. You already know it's Keep It Local with Destiny Beasley, aka the broadcast baddie, where we keep it everything culture, community, and what the 225. And you guys, we are still in this political season. People are out here campaigning, and we have one candidate right here, Miss Lindsay Rubia Garcia. You're running for a congressional seat, ma'am, in the 5th district.
I'm a glutton for punishment. Of my first race ever running, I'm like, you know what, we're going to go all the way in. We're going to go all the way from the classroom to Congress.
Yeah, and how is that? Because you do have nearly 20 years of experience of being an educator. And you said on your website that you're not a career politician. You're an educator. So what was that driving factor for you to even think like, you know what, I'm about to hop in this race?
It's been a long journey to get here. I spent 10 years in the classroom teaching history, social studies, civics, historical thinking skills, and things like that. And I had a viral moment about 10 years ago that gave me kind of like a platform, and a lot of it came from speaking on the experiences I had in the classroom and really what my students in the classroom were teaching me. And I felt like that was the platform that I received was like another form of privilege.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to, just for personal reasons in my upbringing, that if you are given certain privileges, that you are supposed to flex those for progress for other people. The whole process going and doing social media content, putting things out there, I recognize after going viral, it was a tool. That way you can like educate and reach people and organize. So I continue to do that until the Hard Rock in New Orleans collapsed and they left some of the workers inside of the building. And then I got in a little bit of good trouble, as John was, or necessary trouble, depending on how you look at it, behind getting the men out of the building with some dignity and getting them back to their families. And then George Floyd happened, and I went on a road trip and went around. So you can't tell me what I seen with thine own eyes, for instance. And then got hurt on the front lines out there back in Minneapolis during the trial of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. And then after that point, I needed to go to law school. And I really wanted to write books.
Shout out to law school.
The Southern University.
And you know what? I'm a Gremlin alum, but you know,
I know how it is.
I'm all for HBCUs, but
the Southern University Law Center, the one and only. Shout out to class 2025. I see y'all. So yeah, it got to a point, and after that, I took classes with Professor Angela Bell, and she's like my hero. And if I ever decide to grow up, I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to write stories, you know. I wanted to write books. I wanted to do a documentary on the Hard Rock to expose the corruption, but also just the injustice in general of what actually went down there. Yeah. And as time kind of went on, this election was coming up. Donald Trump got elected. I'm seeing the actions that they're taking over the last year. I'm connected to the Latino community. I watched the ICE raids in New Orleans. I was a part of the caravan that followed Bovino around back in December, and I saw firsthand the impacts that was happening on the people in my community. So it's really just been like an ongoing process to get to this point. And then qualifying came in February, and I saw the other candidates, and all the other candidates are in the race. There are 4 other Democrats that are running in this primary, and all of them are qualified candidates. The concern that I personally had was who is going to be the person that's going to stand up against, Donald Trump's policies and those who are endorsed by Donald Trump. And we're talking about the leaders of the Republican side and being able to have the name recognition and be able to raise the type of money and, more importantly, go toe-to-toe. And I just so happen to be somebody, ever since I went viral, I've had death threats. I've had to move. I've lost jobs as a result of all of this. I've had my life threatened. I've had pictures of my children sent to my house. And these are things... We
don't play about the babies.
We don't. And that's kind of what it is. Like, I've already dealt with this for so long that I know what it is that it's going to take to get there, and we're at a pivotal moment in this country. As a historian, as somebody who has tracked the authoritarian regimes just in history, has been talking about this long before content creation was a thing and it was profitable as it is right now. Because it is. That it got to a point that if it is as bad as we're all saying that it is, then you can't just sit here and commentate on it. You can't sit there. If you have a privilege, whatever your privilege is, you should be flexing them for progress. Otherwise, what is the point of having them? So I saw the other candidates, and like, no disrespect to them, and I've told them this personally in forums and whatnot. At the end of the day, we're talking about going toe to toe with this administration and fighting for the policies of District 5. And I have a track record of doing that. People can go and look up for themselves the things that I fought for, the issues that I have. And it was bipartisan. Like, I didn't check the partisanship when I came out here in the floods 10 years ago to help these people. That didn't matter. I didn't check the partisanship of the men who were killed in the Hard Rock, because that's less important to me. And I really feel like there is District 5, that the people of District 5, Democrats, independents, or no parties like I was, and even the Republicans who are being negatively impacted by the administration's policies, from the farmers to just the poor folks and the hardworking folks who are working but still not making enough to get by. I felt like what they needed was an advocate that was willing to say a thing and say the thing is the thing, and then to call out the BS whenever they saw it. So that was, I'm going all the way around to come back to saying it's been a journey in order to get here, but that was the biggest. Even what they did recently to like Calvin Duncan, I mean, they were starting that in the fall, and it's just the actions of this administration and the allies of the administration, and it's been a building up thing. I would much rather write my books. I would much rather be at home cooking dinner and bringing my kids in.
But you feel like you have to serve and you have to fight.
I always said that I would, which is why I never ran before. I talked a lot about it, and I was like, I would if I had to, but I always felt there were people who are far more measured than myself and don't, far more palpable, you know? And I recognize my passions and that I can be animated at times. And I know that I stayed out of that space also because I felt like I had dues to pay. I had boots that I needed to put on the ground. I had things that I needed to learn, which is why I put myself in law school in case of it.
I mean, that's smart.
The law touches everything. If somebody's out there considering going to law school, like, this is now the time, and it doesn't matter your background. I had people that were at SULC that had fashion backgrounds, but it's entertainment law. So the law touches everything that we're doing, as we're clearly seeing. And I think that that's just the all around. You have to put yourself and have the people in the room where the decisions are being made. And I said I would if I felt like it actually came to that. And I felt called by the people, which was first and foremost, which I feel like the people of District 5 and the people of Louisiana are calling out for leaders. They are calling out for unapologetic leaders that represent Louisiana, that look like Louisiana, that sound like Louisiana, that aren't willing to put up with the BS, but are willing to fight like people from Louisiana do. And I wasn't seeing a lot of that. And I'm tired of not seeing a lot of that. And I think that I'm an accurate representation of that all around, a proud product of Louisiana, a proud daughter of Louisiana, and I feel like we need that type of representation.
I actually want to circle back to because we had a conversation outside of this. You did talk about your viral moment, and for me, it seemed to be that spark that ignited the flame in you wanting to be involved in politics. You talked about when you were in the classroom and you were talking about Tamir Rice, and your students, they were educating you about that. So I just want to get more into that, just how that kind of enlightened you in your political career.
I'll say, and I told you, I was like, I didn't even know what going viral was when it happened, to be honest. My girl was like, oh my God, you're on World Star. And I'm like, what? Don't read the comments on World Star, by the way. It was horrible, but it was like a learning experience. All around, because my father was a criminal defense attorney. He represented Hayes Williams, who was wrongfully incarcerated. When he got out, he came to live with us. So that quote, if you're not flexing progress, you're privileged for progress, what's the point? That comes from Hayes Williams. So some of the earliest conversations I had about race and all that were at that time. And I'm saying all that to say, Hayes was actually murdered in the same neighborhood of the school that I eventually went to work at when I went viral, which is William Fisher Elementary in Algiers. And Tamir Rice had gotten killed, and there were conversations. My classroom is open field. We can literally talk about whatever it is. We had Teach the Teacher Tuesdays. So back in the day, they were like, okay, Miss G, your eyebrows on fleek, girl. And I'm like,
what is that? Look, the kids were teacher. Honey.
Yes, they were.
Teacher.
So yeah, teach the teacher Tuesday type stuff. So they would always teach me something. And on that particular day, I don't even remember if it was a Tuesday, to be honest, but the whole point of having that is to facilitate open dialogue and to have like a safe space where they can say what they want, how they feel, and that they trusted me enough to open up and have those conversations. So we had talked about the killing of Tamir Rice. And then I was like, nah, I think they're going to prosecute the cops for Tamir Rice, you know? And then the kids were like, yeah, nah, that's not going to happen, Michie. I'm like, but everybody saw the video. But that's privilege. Even though Hayes had gotten killed when I was 14, so at this point, it's like 10, 12 years down the line. So it's like just that span of time, I had slipped back and forgotten like where the roots were. So when that viral moment happened, I was like, all right, now you have a responsibility at this point. And that's why I told you out there, it's not just for the people who look like me and think like me but couldn't articulate it, but for the people who don't look like me to understand that you have allies and accomplices out here that may not even understand it, but they want to and are open to it. And then also to the negative people who completely just got this wrong and what the movement is trying to say. And I think that that was probably the biggest thing, was that the biggest misconception at that time was that Black Lives Matter meant that all lives don't matter. And that wasn't it, because at that time it was the Black Lives versus All Lives Matter coming out in that conversation. And it was a learning experience for me, and they taught me, and it's like, well, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter too. Like, we want a cure to all diseases, right? We want a cure to Alzheimer's and, you know, dementia and cancer and all that. But you're not going to show up to a breast cancer 5K run and hold up a sign that says cure all diseases. You know what I mean? We're talking about Black lives right now. We're not talking about all lives. We're talking about this injustice right now, because the United States has yet to reckon with that part of our history. And if you ask me, a lot of what we continue to deal with is because in that historical moral sense, you refuse to acknowledge and get how you go from we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and in the very next founding document in Article 1, Section 2, you draft human beings as 3/5 of a person. They haven't wanted to reconcile that. And I think that I recognize that as a historian, and then I took it personally because I not only said it like as a Disney princess that, you know, the liberty and justice for all every single morning that we're pledging to a flag. And then you have me sitting here telling these kids the same thing, is liberty and justice for all, except you really didn't mean it. You didn't mean liberty and justice for all. Don't mean you didn't, but I did. And that's why I did the work with the Hard Rock, or mainly because our children were seeing that every single day. And they were like, you could do everything right, get a good job, do all this type, and it doesn't matter, because they still gonna leave you out there hanging down bad like they did Quinyon Wimberly. And it's at that point, how do you argue with that? So I will say that my kids in this political thing, it was the opening of the door of
just getting into that atmosphere where you can really tap in and understand outside of your own realm.
Absolutely. Between them and the relationship I had with Hayes Williams, they opened my eyes to the brightness that I think that my white privilege had every intention, if it could, to try to keep me ignorant of, if that makes any sense. Once that door was open, I couldn't put it all back in good conscience no more, because these are people that I've been raised around my entire life. These are my friends. These are my family. These are my cousins. These are people that gave me the nickname La Rubia, you know what I mean? That
and you're
embraced
not Hispanic, because I thought you were Hispanic.
It's a fair assumption. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times I say it. That's one of the reasons.
Look, I was kind of looking at you. I'm like, she's
no,
not all the way Latina. Are you Latina and Caucasian?
No. I am Scottish for all. Let's just lay it out there. Be clear. I am white. All right. I am Irish and Scottish, and a little bit of Valkyrie, and maybe all that kind of like, a bit of a problem.
Because I'm like, I know you're not Afro-Latina.
No,
it's obvious.
I never claimed it. I've always been very transparent, but I understand. I understand the confusion. It's very fair. But like I told you, I had changed my name in teaching. Everybody had already called me Rubia long before I got in the classroom, yada, yada. My last name legally was Garcia from marriage. And Rubia was my name on social media, so my students couldn't find me even before I went viral.
Look, kids, I know as a
They were gonna
student
go look.
myself, I was, okay, now what's Miss Such and Such?
I wasn't
IG?
saying nothing at the time, but then
Look,
they
kids,
did. They went.
are detectives when need be.
But they couldn't find me. But then because it was under Rubia, and they didn't know me as Rubia, they didn't know like the Latin dancing history and stuff like that. So I was safe until I went viral. And then once I went viral, I remember going to class and my students was like at the New Orleans Military Academy. Shout out class of 2020, 2019, 2020. They were like, I walked to the class one day and sometimes I would bring them breakfast or whatever, and they were real quiet this morning. I was like, there's something suspect. I was like, what's going on? So they were like, say, Miss G, so you just wasn't gonna tell us like you was like famous on like social media? And I'm like,
that ain't none of your business.
exactly. First of all, it ain't none of your business, number one. Number two, do you have my flashcards, though?
Okay, well, your homework.
Exactly. My project is still due on Friday. Are you finished or are you done? Like, what are we doing? Like, that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. And but even that was like, that's kind of why I felt like when the tarp blew off the Hard Rock and they were telling me, that's why I felt like they told me about it, because they knew I already had a platform. Yeah. And they knew we were at a military institution, and they're wearing the military regs and got Marine instructors, and we don't leave a man behind, and honor, courage, commitment, and that type of stuff. And like I told the commandant, I was like, you want me to teach a community of respect inside these four walls, but then teach them to tolerate a community of disrespect outside of it. I'm not willing to do it no more. And I knew that I was going to get in good trouble by the end of the year, because I had seen and heard enough, because these kids were seeing that every single day. And it's like, you asking me while why we out here pulling on car doors or doing whatever, and it's like, there ain't nothing out here for us, Miss G. There ain't no recreational programs. There's no jobs out here. The housing is crazy and all these types of things. And it's like, I'm finding it very hard to argue against your logic right now.
Look, we gonna get more into that, but we gotta catch that break. We gotta catch that break, localians. So we gonna get more into Lindsay's background and her now political journey right after this break.
I'm hungry. And I'm starving.
I did not have time to go to the grocery store today.
No worries.
For 90 years, Chicken Shack has satisfied your family's hunger. Chicken Shack's famous knuckle-sucking good fried chicken is a must. Don't forget about our variety of po' boys and side dishes.
Plus dessert.
If it's still nothing stuff in you.
You all heard the man.
Welcome back. Thank you for coming back and joining me and Lindsay in this conversation, this candidate talk. So I know you were talking about last time your educational background and how that kind of been that driving factor into your now political journey. So with your educational background, how does that now make you an adequate candidate for this race?
Well, it's my educational background. It's my advocacy background. It's now my legal background, because even when I was in law school, I took, excuse me.
Oh, no, take time. You got some water right here?
I do. When I was in law school, I took the classes with Professor Angela Bell. So I took law and racism, which is the boogie word of CRT is the place where they teach it. They teach like it wasn't titled CRT, it was law and racism, but the ways in which the legislation and also the litigation plays in the United States and the racial aspect. And her, like I said, she's my hero, and her syllabus was absolutely golden for somebody like me, because it was able to be like, oh, thank you for putting all this together, because this was amazing. And then I took voting rights litigation with Judge Janice Clark and Ernest Johnson. And that was all while the
Oh,
Robbins...
he's a Gremlinite, y'all. Dr. Jones, he a Gremlinite. had to
Shout
shout
out.
him out.
Professor Johnson, shout out. And I took the voting rights class, and that was when the Robinson versus Ardoin case was coming out to create the second majority minority district. One of our assignments was to write an amicus brief for that. So
Okay.
I'm very well versed in the voting rights litigation aspect of things, and currently the case is sitting right now before the Supreme Court. And I taught it. I see the ramifications on the ground level.
Yeah.
I walked it. I went and seen what it was in the country, traveling across the country from literally sea to shining sea, drove from Niagara to Tijuana in order to see these front lines for myself and put boots on the ground to see who and what I was ultimately going to be fighting for, the stories that I wanted to tell. And then law school, my focus was all on the things that I was already passionate about, the intersection of race and justice and gender and justice and voting rights and the like. But it's really about the being able to connect to people on the ground level. And as a teacher, as a single mom of two, as somebody who's now been through law school, we need people who are ready to meet this moment with the push of technology being where it is, moving into this AI, moving into this data center space, moving into this CCS, the carbon capture sequestration stuff. We need people who are ready to be it in the long haul, because we are dealing, I can get elected tomorrow and it will take me a lifetime to undo what has been done in the last 14 to 15 years, or 14 to 15 months rather, under Donald Trump's administration and that's me speaking as a historian. So as a candidate, I'm coming as a person by, of, and literally for the people. I am a broke college student. I am the woman that was on food stamps in law school. I am the woman that was on Medicaid at one point and now doesn't have health care at all. I am that person, that millennial child where the parents are like, now their millennial child is coming to live with them because the student loans are so crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I am that person. You're working hard, but you're still not making enough to get by. Like, I see so many people in my district and around me now that are suffering as a result of these policies. And I know that my background, from whether being in the classroom or being on the ground or being in law school, and at this point, it's like, what are we now going to do? And we need to get people in the room. And that's ultimately why I threw my hat in the race to see if District 5 wanted me to be the one to do it. And I feel like my track record, going back from when I first went viral to leveraging my platform to help the people out in this district before I even lived out here, before I even knew anybody out here, just because I did disaster recovery after Katrina hitting at 19. And I did debris removal, and I worked in the community, and I saw the things that immediately needed to be done. The clothes, the toiletries are like the biggest thing immediately after. And that's the work out here that I did 10 years ago was pretty much centered on that, making sure that they had toothbrushes and toothpaste and wipes and diapers for babies and formula and things like that, because that stuff wasn't getting done in the immediate aftermath of the floods in BR and Denham Springs at that time. And now I'm living in the same neighborhood, you know, look at God, full circle coming, you know, full circle around. And I fell in love with this community, and it's where I've chosen to stay and raise my kids. And I want to represent this district because I want to protect my children, and more importantly, whether they sat in my womb for 9 months or they sat in my classroom for 9 months, good teachers really I'm sorry, kids. To my two, but it pains me just as much to see kids and to see our kids giving up so young, which is why I commended you on being young and being out here and doing this type of work, because it's necessary and it's exhausting to try to keep up in this media space.
Needed.
It's necessary
It's much
work.
needed. I will say, especially during this time where you do have, you know, one side in favor of one thing and another side in favor of another thing. And there are some people that do have a platform, but they're adding a spotlight to that one side. And so my job as a journalist is to point out, you know, both sides. And so just even now getting into, you know, both sides, this is a closed primary race. And your district, it's a red district, it's a Republican district, and you're a Democrat. Well, you're running in a Democratic Party. So, with that being said, how do you believe that you are able to get those who have a different view as you to believe in the same things that you believe? Because you just listed everything out, that you live the same life like the next person that's in the state of Louisiana, but you all have different views. Some people, they're blindsided just by the color of your party, your red, your blue, or you believe in this, you believe in that. But just having that common ground, what is something that you can get people to at least agree upon for you, especially as a closed primary race that we're having coming up?
I don't believe and I don't subscribe that this is a red district, to completely honest. And more importantly, I'm purple. Like I told you outside, I was no party before I switched over in order to run, because if I were to sit here and choose a side, even though I don't believe in the two-party system, the Democrats were where I was morally aligned with, even though, and this is a whole other conversation, but I've already gone toe-to-toe with the leadership of the Democratic Party, because I'm not the typical corporate Democrat. And I have no problem calling a thing, and I don't care who you are, right?
Okay.
That being said, I don't believe that this is a Republican. I know Republicans have won in this district. I believe that this is a voter-suppressed district. I believe that this is a district that is suffering with voter apathy, because we're not putting up good quality candidates that people are excited to show up and excited to work for, excited to donate for, excited to volunteer for. But between the Democrats in this district and the no party independents, it's not a red district. But even besides all of that, I have had conversations with so many Republicans in this district, and I think that people think, because of a presence on social media, that people think that I'm closed off and I don't hear it. And I guess I can understand the assumption. But people who know me, people who have met me in person and spent 2 minutes outside of the little quips that they get on social media, they recognize that I'm a fair, firm, and consistent. That's literally my motto in the classroom and out: fair, firm, and consistent person. And at the end of the day, if you can make it make sense to me, even if I don't see eye to eye with you, I can understand it. That being said, I don't think that you can put a partisanship on being able to pay bills. I don't think you could put partisanship on wanting your children to have a good quality education, be able to pay for daycare. I don't think it's partisan to sit here and talk about it, because regardless of what party they believe in, as a result of the policies of this administration, we are now giving tax breaks to the Epstein class, while the middle class is literally being brought down into poverty every single step. So it's not partisan when you go pumping your gas. It's not partisan when you're sitting here putting $5, $6 diesel in your tractor. It's not partisan when it's like your farms are going bankrupt and things like that. I don't think that even the Republicans that I've talked to in this district, they are disappointed in the policies that they believed in when they voted, and they are seeing that this is not what I voted for. So then when I ask them, like, well, if these aren't the policies that you're voting for, then you got to ask yourself who you're voting for. What policies are you voting for if you're going to continue to stay in that party? So what I do see across the country, and there have been waves of Democrats flipping seats throughout West and Palm Beach, where Mar-a-Lago is, and out here in Louisiana, there have been seats that either have been flipped or then been returned, rather, depending upon how you look at it. But I'm not going to be dissuaded about and say, is that really Democratic success, or is that desperation? Meaning, the Democrats are they showing up more, or is it the Republicans are staying home? Because this is not what I voted for. I didn't vote for you to change names of the Gulf of Mexico. I didn't vote for you to change the Department of Defense into the Department of War and kidnap one foreign leader while you blow up the other, and then have them close the Strait of Hormuz, and then jack up all of our prices from fertilizer to corn. I didn't pay you as a farmer or vote for you as a farmer to do Doge cuts and then make my farm go bankrupt. So while it is on paper, because for instance, Julia Letlow sat in this seat and now she's running for Senate, I don't think that it's partisan to try to talk to people one-on-one, and they are happy with the policies that are putting forth, because Louisiana legislature, they didn't have time in order to raise the livable wage, but they found time to go after, Calvin Duncan's seat, for example. I think that they see things for what they are, really, and they don't want perfect candidates with the perfect background. They want somebody that they believe that they can trust And I think that what makes me the perfect candidate for them is the fact that the track record that I have, I'm going to be fair, firm, and consistent, and my empathy doesn't afford the partisanship either, because I genuinely want what's best. And I don't think anybody's going to work as hard as me, because I don't want to let you down. Like, it would really make me feel bad if I did not, serve the better interest of the people of the district. And I think that that's what they want, is they want somebody who they feel like they can trust, who's going to fight for them.
And so just going into policies, I read up on some of the policies on your website as far as healthcare you want, because your district that you're running in is majority rural. And so I saw as far as healthcare, you want rural hospital expansion, and just as far as infrastructure improvement in that. And I saw, as I was reading, one word that stuck out was fight. How you worded it as, if elected, you would fight in Congress. You're one single person. That's a single action. You fighting, but you have other people that you have to work with, and it's Republican ruled in the Senate and in the House. And so, with that being said, how do you feel as if you're able to work alongside your colleagues, if elected, to get some of those things that you said that you will fight for? How would you get those things done? Because, like I said, you're just one person.
Nope, you're absolutely right. And to that point, now we can kind of jump into the conversations that even I have with the DNC, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, and the conversations I had when they were out here last week, because we're all aligned on policy. We want healthcare. We want education. We want hashtag affordability. We want to push this infrastructure stuff. We have all these ideas for policies, but where I'm getting stuck at is the how, because what it seems like even the Democratic establishment don't want to address the orange elephant in the room. They don't want to address the fact that we have an administration that is not adhering to the Constitution. And I made a very blanket statement to them: if it's not impeach, convict, remove, imprison, repeat, I don't know what it is that we're doing out here. So my energy is a little bit different, and that will dissuade some people. But the Republicans that I've talked to are so upset at these policies that they're like, if that's what you have to do in order to get the things done, then get it done. Because if you ask me, a lot of this should have been held and dealt with post-January 6th.
What about even party loyalty? You're loyal to your party. And the current president, he is a Republican. And so, like I said before, both sides is majority Republican. So even you standing as a Democrat, how would you even be able to meet in the middle?
There's not going to be, you can't, if the tree of liberty is on fire, you're not going to get anywhere with trying to negotiate with the arsonists who are still holding the matches, is my point. And I'm not going into this Congress. I'm going to be going into the next Congress, correct? So what the dynamic that you're looking at right now won't be the same dynamic that gets inaugurated in January. And I do believe it's going to be a massive
So you're saying
wave.
you believe that it will be majority Democrat?
Come this election, I genuinely believe that.
What if it's not?
Then we're going to find out. But I genuinely, all the track record, everything leads to all of the flipping of the seats, the data, the conversations that I've had. They're either not showing up or they're switching parties to independents and no
we
parties.
can go off of hypotheticals all that we want. Say, what if we get these seats flipped to blue, and now, Democrats, they rule both the House and the Senate. But what if it's not the case? And now what if, like, just going off a hypothetical, you're the only Democrat if elected.
Obstruction.
And so how do you even believe that if elected, you're able to push some of the things that you want, even if they're against you? How are you even able to, like, any real life issues that you've even encountered where you had to negotiate? How would that even apply to, if elected, you will be able to negotiate once you're in D.C. if elected?
You won't be able to, as you're currently seeing in Congress right now. You're not going to be able to negotiate with the arsonists still holding the matches, and that's kind of my point. It's why I'm sitting here running, because I'm hoping that with my platform and things, that people are recognizing the momentum of this moment, that if we are going to flip houses and flip seats in order to get to the point where we can enact these policies, we have to do that, because otherwise you're looking at a continuation of exactly what it is. Even if, in my positing to the chair of the DNC, you're telling me the same thing you told me I drove 30,000 miles for, which is let's just get to November and get the majority. And then what that sounds like to me is controlled chaos, because I drove all that in order to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, in order to get the George Floyd Police Reform Act. And instead, all we got was knees on with African garb on your shoulder and a bunch of street name changes. And we saw the ramifications of all that. If I am the only Democrat, I can tell you what I'm not going to do, and I'm not going to be drafting any more strongly worded letter having energies. I'm not going to do that. If you want to sit here and break records at the State of the Union, cool. Al Green can go, if hopefully he's still there when I'm there. Al Green can go, and then you can get comfortable, and then the next person can go, and then you get comfortable, and then the next person can go. And you want to break records? Let's see who lasts longer, us or your cankles. Like, that's at this point.
I'm sorry, you lost your cankles. I wasn't expecting that.
It is what it is. I mean, that's why I said I am a little bit more revolutionary like that, but that's across the board, whether it's Republican. And I'm having these conversations with the DNC leadership, because I do believe that the energy that I'm bringing is exactly what not just the Democratic base, but the no party base, but also the disenchanted Republicans are on it, because they see these things. You don't have to like me, but do you like your pocketbook? How about that? Do you like your bank account? How about that?
Because I sure need some more money in my bank.
I ain't saying.
I need some money.
Run me my coins, please. Run me my coins. I get it, and it's a very serious hypothetical, and it's a very serious likelihood, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because if people see me, and my following is literally all around the world and all around the country, and if you're like, dang, man, Ms. G's running after all this. First she was in the classroom, then she did all that stuff for the Hard Rock, then she drove all that, then she went to law school, and now she's at this point. They know I would much rather write stories. I have books that I want to put out. They know that I'm like, I said it to the Louisiana legislature. If I am here before you, it is literally because all the other reasonable voices, you have dismissed them. I'm feeling like you have now pushed me to the point where the people have called, and the people are looking for a strong leader that is going to fight for them. And if it is just me, check the record. I'll stand 10 toes down, 2 eyes forward, all the way to progress by myself, and I'm not going to flinch. And that's just, I'm a proud product of my environment and my upbringing and every experience and culture that has poured into me my life. And when I say that if that I'm the problem, I'm the problem. Maybe it's the solution. I don't know, but we're gonna find out soon.
That's if you get elected. If people come out and vote, and election day is May 16th. So if you haven't, let me look at this camera, because we about to go to break after this. But localians, we already have some information on everything that you need to know, from voter registration to the amendments that's on the ballot to even the candidates. Everything on Broadcast Baddie TV and on Keep It Local, okay? Because we're keeping you informed and connected. But, we're going to come back right after this break, so don't go anywhere. All right, I'll see you after the break, y'all.
Indulge yourself in the ultimate experience at Phoenix Air Spa, where our professional services are specifically designed to revitalize your mind, body, and spirit. Relax, recharge, and re-emerge anew at Phoenix Air Spa. Always aesthetically you.
Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? I was born in it, molded by it.
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage.
I am inevitable.
Callies, I'm so glad y'all are sticking it out to the end with me and Lindsay, okay? And so, Lindsay, I know you talked a lot about, your background from advocacy in the classroom, but what in this moment that you're trying to get the people to vote for you in this district. So what's something that you can point to and put your name on and say that you did that makes you the candidate that people can believe in you and that you're able to get their vote? So what's something that you can point to?
I can point to platforms on social media. Part of after I went viral and I stayed viral, I stayed on that after that was because as the teacher side was like, okay, this is another tool. You can, I think I said it earlier, you can organize, you can educate, you can put people together on this platform. And I have literally built a platform of millions across social media platforms long before content creation was a thing. But Teacher Life was my hashtag, and it was spelled with a Y. My students gave me that. And they're like, because teaching a life is all about a Y, Miss G. You got to be gangster with it.
You know what? They smart. Kids are really smart.
They
You
really
just have
are.
to get them to do the work.
It's one of the things I loved about teaching dance, and especially teaching kids dance, because they haven't had the imagination, the evils of the world haven't robbed them of their imagination yet. So they think I'll teach them a turn pattern, and they're like, oh, what if you do it this way, Miss G, like that? Like their imagination is still amazing and tapping into it like that. But building, I've lost platforms that are larger than all of the ones I have currently combined. They just disappeared on social media, which is, again, another reason why I'm running is because of the censorship that I feel is on the way. Look at what happened to creators on TikTok or whatever. Since the U.S. administration has come on, the ineligible videos getting deplatformed, being censored. That's only a matter of time because the owner of Meta was at the inauguration just like the others were. So it's literally only a matter of time. So I would point to my platforms, whether that be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the track record is there going back. So you can see the good, the bad, the ugly. At one point, I didn't curse when I was in the classroom or whatnot, but after the Hard Rock and then being on the front lines, my language definitely changed because I got so mad and just angry and things like that. But then tried to tone it back down with that, but it's my platform. But mainly, I would say the Hard Rock, the men in the Hard Rock. We started the boycott to get them out, which was issue 1. We wanted to prevent a rebuild of the building, issue 2, which we did. Issue 3 was get some legislation passed that might prevent that in the future. And one of the things I wanted to work on, but I'm fearful of this administration because of getting banned, is putting out the documentary about what happened at the Hard Rock. And the legislation was in New Orleans, if you wanted to build a building like the Hard Rock, which was 19 stories, you had to get a certified engineer to submit plans, and then they would just take your word on it, and you could just build that building. Except the record shows that the building was design flaws in certain steps, and then there were no city inspectors who were going to the site to make sure that the plans were locking in and things like that. So we put in legislation to have a third-party inspector process, so that way before these buildings get put up, that they have a third-party independent engineer who's going to look at the plans and make sure they are structurally sound. And I knew nothing about construction before any of this happened. I was like spaces and beams and city inspectors and, construction and engineering. I'm a history nerd. This is not my forte. But as somebody who studied history, usually when workplace disasters, and I've studied the workplace disasters, and never in any of the workplace disasters did I ever come across a workplace disaster or even Surfside in Florida when that building went down within 60 days. That building is down, everybody's out, it is what it is. But in New Orleans, it took 302 days to get Quignon down, and he was visible from the street for those 302 days. And it took 311 to get Jose buried from underneath the rubble. And by the time they brought him out, he was in a plastic tub.
Jesus.
And duct taped. By the time they brought him out. And that's when I say my vulgarity increased. It was around that time. Because it was just the stark inhumanity of it all. And then, like I said, George Floyd was immediately thereafter. So it's definitely been the journey. But I would say 99%, I'll say 90% of the time that I was doing that work at the Hard Rock, that's why I'm not afraid to stand 10 toes, because I sat outside that building with Quignon and Jose about 90% of the time by myself. And I would sit there, and anybody that walked up, I would show them what happened. I would show them the video where you can see Quignon come out of the building. I would show them that you're not just looking at a tarp, you're literally looking at a human being. That's Miss Irene's baby, for instance. You can literally see him from right here. I built there were 4-story banners in the parking lot across the street. We put up billboards right next to the Hard Rock to raise awareness. I did a full perimeter of pamphleting and putting things around there with QR codes so people could do that. So, and I'm saying all that to say, when I make a promise, I fulfill it. I attempted to go to law school in 2018, and I had the following and things like that, and I couldn't pass the LSAT. And in hindsight, I thought it was me failing, but in reality, I think it was the universe's way of being like, you need to be in New Orleans for the Hard Rock. You need to be available for George Floyd, to be able to go around the country and be able to see what was really happening on the ground for those who are going to try to misconstrue the narrative of what it is, and to be in that space. And then I ended up in law school regardless. You know, it was a whole journey to get there, but I'm grateful for all of that, even for that failure, because I would have known who and what I really was fighting for had it not gone through Hard Rock, had me not take that road, and not just the social justice, but the social justice aspect, but the environmental justice aspect. And being able to see the national parks and things like that they're going to be drilling, and the communities that are going to be affected, the animal life that's going to be affected, and things like that. Like, I came back with a very firm grasp of the front lines of who and what it was that I was fighting for. But it was really on the strength of promises that I made. And even me running for office is me fulfilling a promise to one of my students who is really no longer here, actually, the one who told me, you out here fighting for a dead man, Miss G, and we out here not surviving. He was the first of 7 that I've lost in the last 6 years since I left the classroom.
Jesus.
But I spoke at the trial of the young men that had killed him last year, and as me working with Voice of the Experience and working with incarcerated people and things like that, it didn't bring me any satisfaction that we're now sending 2 young black men to Angola at like 19, 20 years old, and Hassan was nothing but the same. Like, that doesn't give me, it's not lost on me, but I read them the letter that I had my students write letters of, I wish my teacher knew, and he told me I should run for office back then. And the first person after I qualified was I called Miss Toya, his mama, and I was like, don't tell nobody yet, but I'm running. But for me, it's about when I make a promise that I fulfill it. And I think that that's the one thing that I tell people. I will tell people, go check the pedigree. And when you check on me, then you will understand, and you will be able to see and read the comments. Don't just watch what I say. Read what people say about me, because these are people who have been watching me since then, since the classroom, since Hard Rock, since the front lines.
And what if you're not elected? Because this is a race. Everybody's not a winner. Somebody's gonna lose. One person gonna win. Everybody else, they ain't gonna make it. But if you're not elected, what would that look like for you?
I think I relayed this to you before we got on. Like, if the people of District 5 choose somebody else, that's fine with me. Like, this is all a learning. I think I just said, I'm not afraid of failing at this point. I think that that's the universe's way of being like, this isn't what's meant for you right now. You need to go ahead and pivot and do this. I let the Louisiana legislature know behind the Calvin Duncan situation earlier this week. Either way it goes, I'm gonna be a problem. Like, I'm not going to allow y'all to continue to find the time to do things like this while not addressing the affordability crisis in this state. And you're locking more and more people up, but also you're creating an ecosystem here in the state where you literally create criminals only to punish them around here. And I'm sick of it. So what does it look like? If the people of District 5 choose somebody else, cool. I will support whatever candidate comes up, because that's who you feel is going to best represent you. And I'm fine with that. For myself, I'm still going to take the steps that I need. I'm going to still work on my documentary and my books and getting the word out and educating people. I'm still going to continue to do what I've been doing. Last year, we shot down those amendments. I intend to shoot down all 5 of these as well. If it comes down to the legislation or the litigation behind Calvin, I'll be working on that. I do a 24 and 24-hour blog prior to my running for office, where I was scouring 50 different news sources, from Breitbart and OWN, Newsmax, all the way down to the CNNs and all that, Associated Press, Guardian, and all these news sources in between, to try to compartmentalize the flooding of the zone of this administration into 24 points that are digestible. Because when the zone is getting flooded like that, it becomes hard to put a pin in one thing that comes up, because there's so much that's going on. I'll go back to doing that and to educating my people across the country, across the world, more importantly, the people in Louisiana. And I intend to do anything legal Louisiana, where I'm covering anything legislative, anything litigation-wise, anything that comes into Louisiana. I'm not going anywhere. I have no intention of stopping regardless of what happens. So if the people of District 5 choose somebody else, they're going to have my full support. I will back them, and I will wish them all the best of luck going against the Republican candidate and whoever the Republicans choose. It's not really, I might feel like I'm the best candidate, but I can't tell you what's best for you. You know what I mean? That wouldn't be fair of me to do that. So I won't know unless I know, is kind of the whole reason why I'm running. And if you tell me that that's not for you, cool.
And so what is something that you want to leave the audience with before we close out? What's something that you want to tell them?
I would want to say and reiterate what I said to the Louisiana legislature this week, which was not to lose hope and not to feel discouraged. Because when you have, 68% of the vote showing up on a runoff to elect Calvin Duncan, and then after the fact, the Louisiana legislature not even considering all that they did to prevent him to try to win, which probably only increased the percentage that he won by because of their attacks. I don't want them to, you hear it all the time, like, my voice doesn't matter, my vote doesn't matter. This is just another example. I believe the opposite. I believe your voice does matter, and the legislation actually proved that, because if it didn't, then they wouldn't have drafted the legislation, because you spoke, and then they tried to circumvent it. So I would want them to, especially in this administration, in the flood of the zone, it's hard to grasp onto something. I would want them to literally not give up hope. Again, one of the reasons why I'm even running, because it's like, I have been looking for hope too. I have been looking for the fighter too. I have been feeling disenfranchised and downtrodden. And if I can be that for somebody, cool. I just won't want them.
Well, Localians, thank y'all so much for coming with us on this journey. Me and Lindsay chatting it up, and I want to thank you so much for coming on to this platform and sharing, your platform and your candidacy and everything from education to advocacy. So thank you so much for sharing with us. So
I'm really, really grateful. And again, I applaud you for doing this work, because it's necessary.
Thank you. I try. I'm a journalist, y'all. Independent.
Independent, INDEP.
But no, Localians, make sure y'all stay tuned and you all subscribe and stay connected with what matters most. And I'll see you on the next time. Keep it local. All right. See you later.